Hello there, this is Cridical from Cridical Media, just taking a look at the 2024 edition of the Punisher Max series by Garth Ennis, with, of course, Darick Robertson doing the Punisher Born series, LaRosa, Leandro Fernandez, and Doug Braithwaite. And what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now, yes, being of the Max series, this is the more gritty, violent version of the main superheroes from Marvel. And I will admit, in my own personal estimation, I do feel like a lot of those were misses. Like, I do feel certain stories, I kind of agree with what Stan Lee mentioned, where some authors seem to get a little too excited with the ability to write more profane or graphic material. And they kind of went in the wrong direction in many cases. However, I will say Garth Ennis chose the right character and depicted the Punisher in probably the best home he could ever have, this Max imprint. That is something I wish Marvel actually promoted more independent storytelling. It's something that DC seems to always promote, and yet Marvel, maybe they can do better strides in that category. Because this came off so damn well. But anywho, at least getting back to the nature of this channel, in terms of the exterior, yeah, you have one of those awesome Tim Bradstreet covers from the main Punisher Max series. Awesome front here. And yes, it is very particular about that label, parental advisory. I recommend it even if you decide to, get into the series. One little minor sticking point is that they misspelt Braithwaite here. It's the only place in the book that they messed it up, and go figure, it's the cover. They got it right on almost every other aspect, but it's just weird. Hopefully Marvel apologizes to him for that. And speaking of which, instead of Marvel, you have the Max labeling here on the Omnibus section. And of course on the exterior, another Tim Bradstreet, very prominent on the spine there. Now the book itself is around 900 pages, so maybe we'll take a look at that eye right now. And yeah, it does wed very well. Like, the book opens up very evenly no matter what, whether you're on the front, the exterior, the latter half. It works. But it does have, and I love that they did this for the hardback, they use the LaRosa cover, or should I say the little panel from within. This was like a wallpaper for my laptop for many years, so it's just nice to see it somehow yet again. Man, I swear, it's like the universe is all in a cycle, right? But anywho, oddly enough though, it's all black on the spine, so nothing prominent there. But from the same issue, that awesome color overlay that they reused for that same scene, so it's very fitting that it's there. In terms of bonus material, you are getting your typical fare, so variant covers, some concept arts and whatnot, and pencil designs. But there is a little bit here from Darick Robertson, where, yes, because his story, Punisher Born, is pretty much a period piece, he did have to do some research, and yeah, it definitely is appreciated as well that he did his homework and made sure to try and place the story in a very gritty or believable setting, right? Because yeah, it's some pretty heavy material that's getting covered. After all, it's like the one war in America that you don't typically hear much about. So, it's very intriguing nonetheless to maybe get some sort of coverage, even if it's from this fictitious character, right? But in terms of art and plot points, this book, being that it has a few sections to it, maybe it is a bit worthy of taking a look at the table of contents. So as mentioned, it has the Punisher Born series. Then it has the Punisher Max series here. And I guess one thing I want to point out is Leandro Fernandez. He's my favorite artist on the series, but you'll notice he has one colorist here, Dean White. And then later in the book, he has a different colorist, Dan Brown. I bring that up because it does seem to be very important when you look at the art of the book. But anywho, right off the bat, you're given this introductory story. It kind of serves as not so much an origin, but maybe just a history of Frank Castle, like what machinations kind of turned him into who he is. Turns out he was always a killer, even back in the war. But they use this vehicle character here, Goodwin. Forgive me, I can't remember his first name. But yeah, Goodwin, basically, he's just a few days out on his way back. And yeah, they just have to deal with the final aspects of the Vietnam War. But being the final aspects, a lot of the soldiers are appearing to be very lackadaisical. Like they're, either unfortunately doing drugs or committing war crimes straight up and not defending their base ultimately. It's like Frank has to force them to do their job, to go out and patrol and whatnot. And you're given sometimes some incompetent COs and whatnot. So I always find that interesting that he finds a way to kill people even without, directly killing people. The way this scene plays out is quite hilarious. Even if it does result in somebody dying, but still, it's pretty heavy. But I do like that the story, it does try to give you like little glimmers of hope, but at the same time, the harsh realities of war, and that sometimes you really can't escape certain aspects of it. Like even if you do survive, there are different parts of you that can die on the inside and unfortunately not make it home. So one thing, that's probably one of the major aspects of this book or this story that really kind of lifted from it. So awesome writing and excellent follow through by Robertson there. Ennis was pretty much solid throughout this entire series. But yeah, and then you get into Punisher Max itself and the main series itself. And it starts off with your typical fare. Yeah, Frank Castle killing a bunch of mobsters. It's pretty much par for the course for him. But it's, as mentioned, and, sorry if you guys can hold your stomachs, but there is some heavy violence and very gratuitous aspects to it. Like, you're not just seeing somebody getting shot, you're seeing like pieces of them getting shot. It's pretty heavy. And yes, it does kind of juxtapose between, what he's doing on the everyday and what's going on in the background with the character Micro. You may remember him as well. One of the few contemporaries in the Punisher universe. That's the thing about Frank Castle. He doesn't really have many strings that, he's able to bring along with him. Usually he ends up just killing his enemies, right? But this story does, or should I say the series, does have some extending threads, like Catherine O'Brien and whatnot, right? But this particular thing, it's all about just eventually trying to recruit him into the CIA. Very intriguing narrative, and I love the way this scene plays out, the way the scene with Micro plays out, the way certain aspects of this story are conveyed. Like there's a certain image of Micro, and then there's a very final image of this storyline, mirroring, or should I say, in reference to that same situation. Very awesome. But yeah, just a hearkening to one of my favorite images of all time of the Punisher. I just love this. I don't know why. Lighting just done perfectly. And it's funny how much longer into the book this whole situation goes. It's so intricate what goes on in that storyline. You'll end up loving it, that's for sure. Man, I love that series. I love that story, period. But at least using this here, I'm kind of just using some of these pages from this particular story. I believe this is what the Irish mobster story. I forget what it's called. I think it's like, Irish Kitchen or Kitchen Irish. But this is basically my favorite artist. So yeah, Leandro Fernandez, but he's with the one colorist. And the reason why I bring it up is because it kind of stresses the importance of a colorist, because I found some of this art, while the artwork is great, the panels themselves feel flat. And I think that has a lot to do with the colorist in this case, right? But later in the book, you'll kind of see it looks a lot better, and you'll kind of see that a little bit later as well. But on this narrative, it's basically, the Irish mob, they're aging, they're getting older. A new mob, the Westies, are now taking over the neighborhood. So it's kind of seeing that generational gap, as well as, that inevitability of the future. And also the issue that crime will always be present, it seems. So the Punisher will always be needed kind of aspect. I love that he's the overall constant in this overall narrative. It's intriguing by itself, in that light. I love it. But then comes this story here, the Mother Russia aspect. Very heavy. It even has that little reference to, what's his name, to even Nick Fury in it, which is pretty sweet. But I like how this scene plays out. Braithwaite really does sell the whole bar fight scene very well. You can follow the kinetics perfectly. I always like when a writer and artist can pull that off. Get us to truly believe that, yeah, the whole environment makes sense. The persons are coming in from the left and right and whatnot. Very intriguing work. But probably one of my favorite stories, and probably the best villain of the entire series, is here. Nick Cavella. Basically, unfortunately, a mobster who he grew up harshly and thus created a very sadistic person, horrible person. And he's really after Frank Castle. What does he do to make sure that Frank Castle goes after him? He does, of course, horrible things to his family's grave. Wretch, man, I tell you, he's obviously got a one-track mind, right? But the reason why I bring this up is, as mentioned, this is the same artist from earlier, Leandro Fernandez. However, now he has a different colorist. And look how much of a difference. It's a world of difference. How much, the new colorist. And yeah, you have Scott Hanna as well as the inker. But it's incredible how much better this series is because of it. Like it's just legitimately far more depth to each shot, each panel. But I guess poetically intended there. But this narrative, along with bringing up Nick Cavella, it has these intriguing scenes, like not just, violent scenes, but scenes that are just intriguing and you don't really see that often. Definitely abstracted, or should I say, far more original. Let's just put it that way. Even down to this killer here, Teresa Garazza, I think her name is. She reminds me a lot of Sofia Gigante from The Long Halloween. But yeah, it's a very, very heavy kind of aspect here. Just even the scene that takes place in this book is pretty heavy. Yeah, this jazz. Like crazy how this all plays out. You'll end up loving this particular narrative as well. Because, I don't know. I guess Punisher, and at least when writers take on the Punisher, they always create a villain that's worthy of getting got by the Punisher. So it's no different here, just the same. It gives you that weird sense of satisfaction. I guess that's always been Punisher's kick. The revenge fantasy kick. But nonetheless, I thoroughly love this book. But I would present it to you like this. Because of its nature, and maybe if you're not familiar with the Max series, I definitely suggest you maybe sample it first. So maybe just, read it at your local comic shop. Maybe just try it out at a bookstore, or just read it digitally. Get like a little bit of a vibe of the series. Once you do, then yeah, maybe you can commit to an Omni. But definitely this is one you have to feel out first before maybe picking it up. But that's just my 2 cents. Maybe you guys have your own, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in the comments down below, as always. Y'all folks take care, and enjoy the rest of your day.